Today on Inside MLFB, we have Coach Dynomite Kuhn joining us today. Excited for him. He's going to be he's an assistant coach with the Alabama Airborne and working with Coach Jerry Glanville, who he has a long history with. Excited to talk with Coach Dynamite and find out everything he's looking forward to and what the Alabama Airborne are going to bring to the table this MLFB season. Inside MLFB on the SGPN network is presented by WynnBET. Bet $50 at WynnBET and get $200 in free bets. Bet big, win bigger with WynnBET. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com and start winning today. We're also brought to you by Sleeper. You already play fantasy on Sleeper, but now you can win cold hard cash with their over-under game. Just head to sleeper.com/SGP on your phone to join the SGPN group, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. That's sleeper.com/SGP. And make sure to check out our new Discord server, the perfect place to interact and sweat bets with the entire SGPN crew. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Joining me today on Inside MLFB, Coach Dynomite Kuhn. Coach, welcome. Nice to have you on.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to be here. And Adam, I start off every interview, every clinic talk I ever give by thanking at least one person who has helped me to get where I am today. And, again, there's so many, but I really, really want to single out Amy about the VCO for her unconditional support recently. And with all that being said, let's talk Alabama Airborne football.
There we go. I mean, Coach, we're going to get to talking about the Airborne, but I think we got to talk about you a little bit first and how you got here. I mean, Coach Dynamite, a name like that, you got to have a story. And from your bio, you're well-traveled. Just how'd you get here? How'd you end up in Major League Football?
You know what? Here's the gist of it, because everybody always asks me, how'd you get in? And, they want to kind of follow the same career path. And everybody's journey is different, But at the end of the day, what I like to tell people is I did something nice for somebody, not expecting anything in return. So, for instance, as a college junior, I was helping a regional football scout under the table. He was recently a former player. He had been a former coach. He was just getting into the scouting ranks. And, I grew up with a computer. I was 10 keying. I was, typing without looking at my fingers long before, it became in vogue for most people. So again, just by having that technical attributes, he noticed that. And he said, it goes against every protocol in the book, but can you help me type my Big 12 reports up? And so at the end of the day, I helped him, not thinking anything would really come of it. This went on for 3 years, Adam. And the next thing I know, he leaves one team and he gets promoted to vice president of the NFL team. And again, not looking for a job, being sincere, being honest. I sat down and I wrote him a handwritten note. And a week later, he called. And again, this is when it shows a little bit of dating there, but it had a house phone, and he called on the house phone. I picked up, and he was my buddy, my first mentor. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to finish school. And the emphasis was trying. And he said, well, I've got an NFL internship for you. And here I am, a junior in college, starting at the top of the food chain. And kind of like Dan Marino, I was like, well, this is kind of easy, and I didn't have my degree yet, but I was like, hey, I'm already here. I'm already at the top of the mountain. I'm there's no question, there's no doubt I'll be back here, So I did transfer from LSU, and I finished at Nicholls State. And one of the reasons I went to Nicholls State because at the time, the New Orleans Saints were hosting their training camp there. So my entire idea was, okay, let me get on the Nicholls State Colonel staff, get to know the facility, get to know the area, and then be able to turn around and work with the Saints. That didn't happen, but it did allow me, again, to get involved in the college football world. And then, of course, my first real job, full-time job after finishing and graduating from Nicholls State was in the Arena Football League. So I spent 3 years there. And then it's the whirlwind, college football. I've worked in the Ivy League. I worked in the OVC, the Big Sky. So again, primarily at the FCF's ranks, also 2 historic Black colleges and universities, which I think is very important because again, when I'm assembling my roster, and we'll get to that in a minute, there's always kind of a connotation when it comes to HBCU players. And I think a lot of it is they're very raw, but they have outstanding potential. Again, you think about the Jerry Rices, the Walter Paytons, the guys like that come from those smaller schools. And I always feel like that's my forte, Adam. I've always had a niche when it comes to D2. We have 2 NAIA individuals on our roster right now, for the Alabama Airborne. Several Division II players, obviously a lot of FCS guys, but really and truly, I think that's my forte is going out. And the biggest difference between me and every other talent evaluator is because I grew up this last dozen years working for Coach Glanville and also working for June Jones. So I'm one of those few people that can say they have both of those coaching trees. And again, I've never worked with Jeff Reinbold, who's our quarterbacks and receivers coach, or be calling the offensive plays for the Airborne. But we've known of each other for years. We've crossed paths. We've always, seen each other at conventions and clinics and whatnot. So again, it's one of those things. We know each other by trade. We know each other by name. We've obviously associated with each other, but we all come from the same coaching background. And I think, again, while a lot of guys get really hyped up about the height, weight, the speed, and the metrics that come with the analytics of football, when I'm watching a player, Adam, I'm looking for who does this remind me of that previously played for us, or is a run and shoot guy that's previously played for us, or a 3-4 guy who has previously played for us. So again, that's kind of how I do things. And because of that, I think that allows me a lot more freedom and flexibility. And again, our fast forward here because it's such a long resume, but really and truly, it was one of those things where, at a certain point in time, I took a $10,000 pay cut to leave the Ivy League, go out west, and nobody realized what I was doing at the time. I was thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. And so in 2009, I aligned with Coach Glanville at Portland State. And one of my colleagues at Portland State was a young Jesse Thompson. And Thompson's currently our special teams coordinator and running back coach. I think this is our 6th or maybe 7th tour of duty under Coach Glanville. And one of the things that I also like to talk about Coach Glanville about is the fact that even after working in college for him, even after, doing a couple East-West Shrine games, which are, NFL All-Star games, some people want that phone call once in their life. We had it 3 times, So again, having that experience to be able to install in 3 or 4 days, having to play in under a week, I think that really prepared us for working in alternative pro football, first in the UFL, the United Football League back in 2011, followed by, working in the XFL, as I did in 2020, and then the Spring League later on in 2021 as part of the Conquerors. Of course, the Spring League forerunner to the USFL, and then of course, now being involved in Maine football is really, again, to me, it's something where you're giving a lot of guys who had that COVID year, for instance, maybe didn't have a pro day, maybe because of reduced NFL practice rosters, they weren't able to join a team. And so there is a need for it. There are enough talented players, as we've proven. There are enough talented coaches and support staff. We got a chance to go to the stadium today and meet our trainer, meet our video guy, meet our equipment manager, and every one of them sterling resumes, has worked in and around football. Most of them, have just getting done with the season, for instance, in the USFL. But I think, again, it's one of those things where you can never get enough of football. I think it's the consummate team sport. Everybody understands that, again, you need everybody to be on point. You need every person on that roster. So again, that's what I love about this sport, the camaraderie. Obviously, we're all competitive individuals by trait, by nature. But again, I think the thing that we really relish from an airborne perspective is the ability to help these guys get to that next level, whatever that next level is, and again, collectively, it's one of those things where we have ties to every organization out there, every league out there. But most importantly, again, We want to help really have a explosive offense, a very physical defense, and then want to win games on special teams. We really a lot of people preach it, but when the head coach sits in every special teams meeting, and just his presence alone allows people to realize how important we take teams. And again, fun factoid, it was Marv Levy was the first special teams coordinator in the National Football League, followed by Dick Vermeil, followed by Jerry Glanville. So, and all three of them became head coaches eventually, because again, I feel like special teams doesn't get enough credit because you're working with the entire unit. You got to work with guys on offense and defense, but special teams coordinators in general, I think, should get more opportunities to be head coaches, in my opinion.
Not even a question, Coach. And you talked about that early NFL opportunity, and it was with the Buffalo Bills. So you steered right into my wheelhouse. So I got to know who in that 2001 draft was your responsibility for the Bills?
Well, I didn't have. I wasn't in the college scouting department. I was in the pro scouting department, and my biggest contribution to the organization was there was a large room, magnetized walls from floor to ceiling, and again, big red line that went all the way through it. So all 32 teams offense above it, all 32 defenses below it. You've got a panel over there with street free agents and CFL and arena guys and whatnot. And of course, during camp, when there's 50 to 60 waiver wire transactions that are going on in Manhattan every day, you need, because everybody's got a little magnet, right? And so you need to have somebody to go through and and keep that updated. The director of pro personnel is looking for looking at the cuts, the general managers looking at potential trade opportunities or free agents and whatnot. It has to be accurate. Whatever happens at the end of the day, as long as it's accurate. But it became something that I became just naturally good at. I had almost a preternatural experience with it. I could do it faster than anybody else, could do it more accurately. And most importantly, I really relished it. So at one point in time, I knew every team's roster, training camp roster, probably close to 100 free agents, and I had everybody like in a I couldn't balance my checkbook, but I could do all of that really well.
There we go.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's got something, and with the football minds, it always seems to be, you can't take the garbage out, but you can name who the fifth string running back is. What the hell are you doing over there? Come on.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those things where I think you don't realize at the time how much goes in, how much investigating, how much vetting. It's when you're investing millions of dollars in the guys, you want to know everything, and you're going to talk to a lot of people. And it's funny because, and we'll get into our coaching staff here in a second as well, but, just here with Major League Football, the offensive line coach and myself, we've been acquired a new player today, actually, and went to the college position coach, and reaching out to former colleagues that have worked with him before. And again, from our perspective, that's the most important aspect. It's not just acquiring the talent, it's making sure that they're actually going to show up. They're going to show up in shape. They're ready to roll. They're ambitious. And again, I think that we've assembled a very, very talented group for the Alabama Airborne.
And we talked to one of your players earlier this week. We talked to EJ Labaz. He was actually on the first episode. And let me tell you, I think you hit a home run with that young man right there. Like, he's a man who carries himself well. Watching the film, he plays hard, and he's got that maturity that he's going to show up. He's working hard. He's going to show up in shape, that you talk about being so important there. So, Coach, you talked about this deep roster, and honestly, having looked over a few things, I think you guys might have the deepest quarterback room in Major League Football. And that's dangerous because you guys, there are 4 potential starters right there who could all be successful. We got AJ Bush, Chase Fourcade, Maxwell Mailer, who people might not be as familiar with, and Kyle Sadler. Coach, can you just give us a rundown? What do each of those guys bring to the table, and why are you guys so excited about your entire quarterback room?
Yeah, the interesting aspect with this is the fact that back in the day, Ron Wolf, when he was with the Green Bay Packers, he would always draft somebody in the 7th round or get an undrafted guy, make it a priority to always keep that quarterback room kind of, you're always turning the bottom of the roster, as they say, right? But he would always bring somebody else, whether it was, I think one year he brought in a running back from Air Force that they were trying to convert to quarterback or whatnot. But it was always interesting to me that he despite the fact that they had, pretty decent Doug Peterson and Brett Favre and, some other guys that on the roster that were stalwarts, that were, but they always brought people in. And so I think my philosophy kind of is rooted in that. It's always about competition. Let's bring the best competition to the table. And the interesting aspect for Max Mailer is he originally started at Linwood University. And when I first spoke to him, we started talking and I asked him about his experience there. And he said, well, I was trying to play quarterback, but they ended up the head basketball coach pulled me aside. I thought I was just going to practice with them. I ended up playing basketball too, so he transferred it, after a while because he really wanted to focus on football. And again, Wisconsin Whitewater is the gold standard of Division III football. I think there's no denying the amount of titles and the deep playoff runs that they make consistently. So I know Mailer has practiced against a good defense. He's used to playing 14, 16 games every season. Took him to the semifinals one year. I believe they lost in the championship another year. But a guy that has a veteran presence, is well liked and received by everybody at that program. And again, I really just feel as if his completion ratio you can say what you want about the talent there and the system there, but having almost a 70% completion ratio, he's doing something right. He's finding his targets. He's making his checkdowns and his read.
And over 70%. He's almost 71% completion percentage in his most recent year.
Yeah.
And he threw 12-1 on his touchdown to interception ratio. It doesn't matter if you're playing high school football. If you're throwing like that, you can sling it all over the yard. So you've got a guy like him who can pick up yards with his legs when you need it. And then you go to a guy like Kyle Sadler, who threw 91 touchdown passes over 4 years at Augustana in South Dakota. And you've just got another guys who sling it.
Yeah, he has a stat on his Twitter page about every quarterback at all levels, for the 2020 draft class, and stacking him up against everybody else. He would be, as career passing yards, it's over 10,000 yards. And across the levels, he would be the number 3 quarterback coming out of the 2022 draft class. And so just on career passing yards alone. But 38 touchdowns his senior season. And again, a guy that is a Frisco, Texas native. And again, it was one of those things that I talked to our play caller, Jeff Reinbold, about, having a guy like Kyle on our team, and if there was any concerns, is he a system guy? Are you seeing the same things I am? And we both agreed, because again, while I kind of spearhead the acquisition of players, it's a collective team effort, So obviously, I passed the film on to the coaching staff. We talk, we engage, we discuss, who we really want to go after. And then, of course, most of the transactions that require agents is what I'm, being the point person for. But ultimately, again, I think Kyle was a guy that he really, really intrigued me because of the success he's had since high school. Again, everybody knows about Texas high school football, the Friday night lights, all that jazz, but it's real. And when you play at a big time program like Kyle did in high school, and again, get looked over by a couple bigger schools, for instance, and he goes to South Dakota and really lights it up. And as a guy that I was very happy to acquire, and somebody that, again, now we want to see how he competes at the next level and how those windows are going to close just a little bit, faster. And so, again, Kyle's somebody that we're very, very intrigued with, along with Max Mailer.
But then we go to a guy like Chase Forcade, who's out of Nichols State, a school that you're familiar with. And,
Yeah.
he might not have had the gaudy numbers that the other guys did, but he played at an FCS
Mhm.
level, higher level of competition. And he's a gamer. He's a guy who can
Yeah,
make plays with his arms, but he's unafraid to make plays with his legs. It's almost a little Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque sometimes, where you think of him as a passer, but he's not afraid to put the shoulder down and run if he needs to.
Yeah, you know what? Again, I think lineage is also important. His dad and his uncle played for the New Orleans Saints. He's an individual that comes from a football family, went to one of the premier football factories in Louisiana, and then turned around and as a true freshman, stepped on campus in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and from day one was anointed the starter. And I think you said it, a lot of people have that label of being a gamer, but Chase, his best games, when you look at his tape and when you're evaluating a quarterback, his best games are against big-time competition, playing against Georgia in Athens, playing against Texas A&M in College Station, and keeping that team in both of those games. Realistically, they had a chance of upsetting Texas A&M at one point in time. So again, you can't describe it. You either have it or you don't. You have that moxie, that charisma, that clock that internally goes off in your head. Chase Forcade has that, and on top of that, like you alluded to, he's kind of like Vinny Testaverde or one of those older backs that he likes to lift. Every time I call him, he's like, "Can I call you back? I'm actually working out." So when I don't mind the fact that he's from that generation where when I call, I immediately get the text. But I understand, he is he's a grinder, and he's somebody that again, his agent and I worked very diligently to get that deal done. And I think he's an individual that had a chance in Canada most recently. He was with the Calgary Stampeders just a few weeks ago. So again, when you talk about being in shape, having just gone through a camp, what a huge tactical advantage that is for us, and then him throwing actually to a guy that was on that same roster with him, a young man by the name of Nick Holly, who's a wide receiver from Kent State that ironically enough also played for us in Houston. Both Coach Thompson, special teams coordinator, myself, worked with Nick before. And he's familiar with the terminology because obviously we're using the same verbiage that June Jones does. So Coach Reinbold and that offensive staff already have put their playbook together. We've been in install meetings. We're here in Mobile already. And it's always good to see how these guys, how quickly they can put it together. Because again, Adam, it's not about our collective knowledge, right? It's about what those players can retain. And most importantly, and this is a huge credit to Coach Glanville, if we run it and we can't get it, we'll throw it out. There's no need to sit here and because again, like I said, this is an all-star game 4 or 5 times over. It's an all-star game. So and we're game plan, we're add some tweaks once we actually start getting opponent film and whatnot. But we got to showcase these players. We got to put them in the best position, and so again, a guy like Chase Forcade is an individual who I really, really, you said it. I mean, he can do the RPO stuff. He can throw. In fact, that was one. Again, you talk about due diligence. You talk about vetting. You talk about doing your research. In fact, I had called Nick Holly to ask what his opinion was of Chase Forcade. I didn't expect to get Nick Holly. I was just asking, because I was genuinely curious. They had been in camp recently. And Holly kind of, he said, are you really going after this guy? I said, yeah, I am. I've always wanted to work with Chase Forcade. And then Holly, hit me back and he said, you know what? I think I'd like to join you guys. So again, very happy to have him in the fold. And of course, the last quarterback is a young man, AJ Bush, who originally was recruited by Nebraska. And when they had a coaching change, he decided to leave and he went to Virginia Tech, where he had some quarterback competition there and didn't have to go to the University of Illinois. But Lovie Smith personally recruited him to be his guy because he was just coming back from the NFL ranks back into the college ranks. And he, again, as your quarterback goes, so goes your team. And AJ's from Atlanta and an individual who, again, I think it's labeled as a running quarterback. And that was one of the things that we talked about when I made my initial introduction to him. I said, look, we need to see what you can do in the pocket now. Everybody knows you got wheels. but we need to see what you can do back there. And especially on our offense, run and shoot, where you always have 3 or 4 wide receivers, sometimes 5 on the field, at the same time. It's a very quarterback friendly system. And I think if anything, AJ needs to prove that he can be more of a pocket passer. That's not to say that we're going to limit him, because again, we want the players to play towards their strengths. And he's a guy that is not a change of pace guy. That's again, the misnomer. He really, really, again, having all those starts in the Big Ten and leading the Fighting Illini. And I always, again, highlight tapes are highlight tapes, but I like to actually watch game film. I like to see how players' nonverbal communications are when they're down by 3 touchdowns. And again, when you watch AJ's tape, when you watch actual game film of him and the beating he takes sometimes, and he keeps getting up. He keeps getting up, and I admire that. I like that. That's a guy I can win with.
Yeah, and like you nailed it there. He's a guy you can win with. He's a physical guy. He's not afraid to get back up. He carries himself well. And really, he's got shades of PJ Walker to him with his ability to sling the rock on a line in that run and shoot offense, but also brings the mobility. And this could be that opportunity. We saw PJ Walker shine with y'all in the XFL. Now AJ Bush could have that chance, or maybe, like we just said, you have 4 quarterbacks, and this has to be the toughest positional group to kind of project from the outside. And for you as well, I'm sure it's just who's going to show up and who's going to ball out in Mobile.
Yeah.
Make sure to get down on the Wins Bet 50 Win 200 promotion, where a $50 bet qualifies you for up to $200 in free bets. Bet $500 on sports or casino before July 31st, 2022. Get entered to win the ultimate fantasy football draft experience at Encore Beach Club, including a 2-night stay at Wynn Resorts for you and your entire league. Multiple entries allowed. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is download the WynnBet app or visit wynnbet.com to get started. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBet is available. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And make sure to check out our new Discord server, the perfect place to interact and sweat bets with the entire SGPN crew. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Did you have some coffee this morning? Where'd you get it? The grocery store? Some other large chain? Wouldn't it feel better if you could get locally roasted, organically, well-sourced coffee delivered right to your door? Well, now you can with Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee sends you freshly roasted beans from 60 of the country's best craft roasters. Small businesses who pay farmers fair prices and sustainably source the greatest beans from around the world. Whether your friends call you a coffee snob or you just know what good coffee tastes like, Trade's real coffee experts personally taste over 450 roasts so they know exactly what to recommend to you. Because the truth is, you like what you like, I like what I like, and it could all be different. You'll like a specific selection of coffees that are different for everybody, and Trade is here for that. Trade will deliver a bag of freshly roasted coffee as whole beans or ground for however you brew it at home, and they guarantee you'll love your first order, or they'll replace it for free. Right now, Trade is offering new subscribers a total of $30 off your first order, plus free shipping when you go to drinktrade.com/SGP. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. Get started by taking their quiz at drinktrade.com/SGP and let Trade find you a coffee you'll love. That's drinktrade.com/SGP for $30 off.
Yeah. And again, I mean, all those guys, I think at the end of the day, they've all been the man where they're at, collectively. And I think every one of them brings something unique to the table. But at the end of the day, they're all going to drive each other. I think that when you have good competition, again, I'd like to take all 70 of them to the regular season with me. We can't. It's a business. They understand that, and that's why everybody's so anxious. I believe I text Kyle the other day, and I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm watching old Hawaii Home off of YouTube because I have a playbook. We have them write it down when they get here. That helps them retain the information." But the fact that he was doing that on his own just shows me the level of detail that he has, and all of these quarterbacks and all of our players do. Again, the number one thing is, I wasn't sure where I was going to land. So for us, for Alabama, they benefit from the fact that I was interviewing in the CFL in January. So I literally had my pro personnel list up to snuff. I had all my agents accurate, So again, you always prepare, just like a player, man up. You'll have your free agent rosters ready to go. And again, we're in a very luxurious position right now where I'm actually telling some guys to stay home because I'm, reporting day or reporting week is always interesting. But I think, at the end of the day, we're very happy with the amount of talent that we've been able to do. We don't have enough time to go over everybody, but if the quarterbacks are any indication of the rest of the unit, I will say that my cup runneth over for the first time in my career, defensive tackle. I'm having worked for Coach Glanville. I know what the priority is, and it's always the pass rush. We got to get after the opposing quarterback. So that is the number one thing that I go after. And it actually helps me when I'm talking to free agent offensive linemen, because I tell them, hey, look, I've got 8 defensive tackles under contract. 5 of them can slide outside if necessary because they have that type of versatility. And I think, again, in these types of leagues, when you have an injury, you don't have the luxury of being able to fly somebody in on short notice or whatnot. So you need guys, whether it be on the offensive line, whether it be on the defensive line. Every single one of our slot receivers has returned kicks in college, not attempted to return kicks. They've actually done it. Every one of our DBs, I would say of the 14 that we have under contract, 10 of them can play either corner, nickel, or safety. So again, when you talk about versatility, when you talk about, we've got a outside linebacker who actually had his hand on the ground with the Oakland Raiders, So again, it's always about, hey, worst case scenario is, half the offensive line goes down with food poisoning. Do we have enough guys on the roster, Dynamite? Yes. So again, it's one of those things where you don't wish injury, you don't wish anything negative about anybody, but the reality is it's football, and guys get injured, and especially again, we don't have a practice roster when we get to the regular season. We've got a 50-man active roster, but at the end of the day, everybody's going to practice, right? So, we don't have time to stop midweek and say, okay, yeah, let's change out these tight ends or whatever the case may be. We have to have guys that can slide around, that can move around. Again, having 4 guys that have played offensive center before, and again, not just attempted to shotgun snap or not just attempted to that position before. They've actually done it. So again, I think that's one of the things that versatility and production are the 2 things that I really look for in a football player.
Awesome. Yeah, Coach, you took us through everything we were going to see there from that roster. That's great. You talked about all that versatility, and you talked about also just this defensive mindset that Coach Glanville is going to bring. The grits blitz is what he's famous for, and always the defensive game plans. Yep. His Vipers team in the XFL was starting to just was going to rewrite record books, and it wasn't looking like modern football anymore. It was throwback to the 1960s,
right,
where it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust and the defense pitching a shutout. How does, looking at your roster, I see a guy like Xavier Lewis, who's a physical safety, and you start watching his film, and the first thing that jumps off to you is this guy's in the backfield on just about every play.
Yeah.
What is bringing a guy with an attacking mentality like Xavier has to the grits blitz, for lack of a better term, defense bring?
No, and again, we go through a lot. We utilize a lot of DBs. Again, we're very fortunate in the fact that we have Prince Charles Amora, who is a 49ers draft pick. We have a J.N.A. Harris on the other side, who went to camp with the Philadelphia Eagles and then later signed with us with the Houston Roughnecks of the XFL. After that, he decided that he wanted to play for us in the spring league, not once, but twice. And then again, you bring a guy like Xavier Lewis to the table, who he was actually an injury replacement. So he didn't come to training camp with us at the start of the spring league in Indianapolis when we were with the Conquerors. I brought him in kind of mid-season. And I remember talking to the DB's coach, a guy that's up in probably the highest paid DB's coach in Canada right now. But I remember talking to him and saying, hey, we really need to get X in there. Zay's a guy that, he's penciled in as our starting free safety right now. And he follows that lineage that I like, which is he started at a very big SEC school like LSU, maybe didn't get the playing time he wanted, drops down to southeastern Louisiana and is ultra successful, ultra productive, becomes an NFL prospect coming out of that. But again, he's one of those guys that, misses his pro day, maybe doesn't get into an NFL camp, and really needs film. More than anything else, this is their resume. This is what these guys will use moving forward. And again, it's one of those things where it didn't happen by accident. I really went through, for instance, and I got two guys from Louisiana Tech, one grad transfer to Georgia Southern to finish. But those two guys have communicated. They know each other, right? Michael Sam and Ephraim Kitchen. They played in college together, right? So they played for a very respected former colleague of mine. So when I call and say, hey, can these guys, are these guys Glanville DBs? And he's like, Dynamite, they'll be awesome for you, And another guy like Cameron Solomon, or they call him Solo, at strong safety, a raging Cajun. But really, I think you mentioned him in your report recently, just a hard-hitting free safety, Brian Dawkins type, where you're just like, he's going to knock some helmets off, and you need a guy like that, crowd the line of scrimmage, but by that same token, has enough ability to help on the back end, is a smart football player, and again, somebody that I really, really am high on, and that again, from our perspective, when you're bringing all this collective talent to the table, now you got to start managing egos in some regard, how many reps everybody's getting. It's a wonderful, wonderful competition for our defensive back coach, Kim McLeod, to sort out. I kind of gave him a loose step chart of what I thought, it should be, at least starting out. And then, of course, I don't call play on game day, so I just kind of let the coaches sort that stuff out. My job's just to bring the best talent to the table. And we laugh about it because I always tell Coach Glanville, if we win, it's because of the coaching. If we lose, it's because of the personnel. And he's like, Dynamite, that's why I love you.
I mean, it sounds like y'all got a great staff over there, just everybody clicking on the same level. Why are you so excited about coaching in Alabama, in Mobile?
Yeah, great question. I think, again, I've been fortunate enough to attend 5 or 6 Senior Bowls. So I've been to Mobile in January. I grew up in Louisiana, and so it has that you're not in the South, you're in the deep South kind of feeling, right? So, but it's still, I think Mobile is it's one of those. It's not recruited enough. You've got a tremendous amount of talent here. If it's Spanish, Ford and Daphne and some of these other schools around here. Again, high school football is very important. Obviously, you've got a lot of families kind of divided down the middle when it comes to Auburn, Alabama. But honestly, again, Jacksonville State in the FCS ranks, perennial playoff contender. And again, I've got guys on the roster from West Alabama, for instance. And just added a UAB defensive tackle by the name of Justin Thomas. And so it wasn't my intention to have a team that was comprised primarily of guys from Dallas to Atlanta. That's just kind of how it happened.
So you talked about it there, deep in the heart of the football belt, the deep South, really exciting place to be. What's one thing that you really hope these players take away from this opportunity? It's a developmental league. You guys are going to try to coach them up. What's the thing you as an airborne staff want to instill from day one in your players?
I think really and truly our goal is to ensure that we get as many of these guys, put them in the best position to showcase their abilities, to have an opportunity to get a great recommendation from us. There's a young man from San Jose State that I'd like to talk about for a minute by the name of Tyler Nevins, who was people consider him a fullback, for instance, but he's a big-bodied running back, and he's a guy that when we first engaged in dialogue, he made it quite clear that he wanted to continue honing his craft, but that he did not want to be a blocking fullback, and that he had never rushed for over 1,000 yards in college. It wasn't the man, they didn't give him that opportunity. And I said, I'll give you that opportunity, because I think, having a big bodied running back, again, working for a defensive minded head coach, he wants to run the ball. He wants to pound it. He wants to wear down the opposing defense. He wants to keep the ball out of the opposing offense's hands. He wants to keep his defense fresh. Makes sense. Again, at the end of the day, that running back room is also going to be a very healthy competition. Jordan Salima comes back, a wonderful, talented young man who has developed into an exceptional pass catcher on top of everything else that he does on special teams so well. And like I tell all these guys, there's enough DBs, there's enough wide receivers in the league. You're not going to make an NFL team solely on those attributes. You need to embrace special teams. And again, that's one of the reasons why, despite the fact that, I've worked at other places, other head coaches and whatnot, the number one rule that I've learned from Coach Glanville is you have to put an emphasis on that special teams. And, again, we put together a tremendous roster of even big body guys like Desmond Maxwell from Western Kentucky, who's a true H-back, a guy that, again, he can put his hand on the ground as a tight end. He can help in the run game as well as being a fullback. But an individual that's going to open up a lot of holes for us. And again, I'd like to see him with the ball in his hands because, again, the running back coach Jesse Thompson asked. He said, "Do we have any film on him?" And I said, "It's all blocking. This is a guy that we need to get the ball in his hands, see what he can do with it. On top of Tobias Taylor, who had an exceptional run. I think he had 31 touchdowns for his last indoor team, and then Art Tompkins, who is a guy that we got late in the spring league as well, but has, actually has the ability to flex out as a slot as well. So again, you talk about versatility, you talk about guys that, for us, it's about mismatches. It's about putting our guys in the best position. We're not going to ask somebody, I like to say, you don't ask, a stallion to do a plow horse's job and vice versa, so for us, we want to put these guys where they will fit in best and not try to have them adapt to what we're asking them to do. Whether it's offense or defense, if we run it in practice and we're just not getting it, we just throw it out of the playbook.
Now, on to Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players. You probably already have a fantasy league on there. I use it for mine. All of them. Don't want to tell you how many. It's a game-changing product unlike anything else in the industry, and now you can make money on Sleeper too by playing their new over-under game. It's super simple. First, in any sport, choose 2 or more players you like and pick the over-under. For example, number of points in basketball, hits in baseball, yards in football. Then choose the amount of money you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 to 20 times the money you put in. The main reason I'm excited about Over Under on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can join my friends' contests and play together. It's got a built-in group chat where I can see and copy my friends' picks with the tap of a button. It's insanely fun to ride out all these contests together. Stop what you're doing and download Sleeper now to play their new Over Under game. Have fun with your friends and make some money. On your mobile phone, join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/SGP, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. That's right. Join our squad and get the 100% deposit match at sleeper.com/SGP. Did you know that browsing online using incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? That's right. Without added security, you might as well give away all your private data to hackers, advertisers, your ISP, and other prying eyes. That's why I use IPVanish to make it easy to stay truly private and secure on the internet. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet by encrypting 100% of your data. This means that your private details, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish makes virtually invisible online. Makes you virtually invisible online. It's that simple. You can use IPVanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed. Your computers, tablets, phones, even devices like your Fire Stick when you're streaming media. Whether I'm at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IPVanish. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's just like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you're instantly protected. You won't even know it's on. Stop sharing with the world everything you stream, everything you search for, and everything you buy. Take your privacy back today with the brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. So go to ipvanish.com/SGP and use promotional code SGP and claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/SGP. I had you on mute that entire time, and that was a really great question, too.
You're going to have to ask it again now.
I'm going to have to leave that one in. Oh, boy, that was embarrassing. Just an awkward 30 seconds. Coach, spring leagues come and go with just amazing frequency at this point. You've been all over. You've been in the spring league. You've been in the XFL. You were CFL adjacent. Why Major League Football? Why did you decide to take this chance?
Good question. And I really think that, again, I actually, there was, they've been trying to get off the ground now for several years. The fact that they bought all the AAF's equipment and they actually have enough shoulder pads and helmets to outfit 8 clubs. But I believe in the vision that Frank Murtha has. First and foremost, the fact that it is a publicly traded company offers a lot of credibility. The fact that, again, filing SEC paperwork and being able to acquire it on E-Trade or Fidelity or any of those financial apps, that takes time, that takes effort. And I know there's MLFB shows up on a lot of penny stock investors, individuals that aren't even interested in football or sports in general. They're just looking for the next hard seltzer. They're just looking for the next electric vehicle, whatever the case is. They're just wanting to invest in something. So again, the fact that we're actually trading on the stock market, I think, is a huge win for us. The other aspect is the fact that, again, as I kind of alluded to, I think the wins and losses, while they're in the moment, but the things that stick with me is having that ability to help launch careers. I think there's something extremely rewarding of doing something good for somebody and not expecting anything in return. So, for instance, when I was able to package 3 guys and send them to the Los Angeles Chargers, everybody kind of scratched their head and said, "Dynamite, how'd you do that?" And it's a long story, but basically what it gets down to is a guy that I worked with 20 years ago in Buffalo as an intern. We've kept in touch every offseason. Finally he's ascended to a rank where now he's a decision maker in the National Football League. And so, again, I think word of mouth, I think having the ability, the network, the connections, those are all important aspects. And again, having the credibility, because I've been asked to recommend guys before and I haven't, because again, it's my name, it's my reputation. Obviously, it's a very unique name, so I can't. So if they say, "Oh, Dynamite said this" or "Dynamite said that," again, it's so. But I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you really you get a chance to work with guys that they're ambitious, they're driven. As I tell everybody in the first team meeting, hey, look, guys, if you're out every night after 11 o'clock, that's telling me you don't want to be here or you're here for the wrong reasons, and this is a business. At the end of the day, this is a business. And when you work for a head coach like Jerry Glanville, who's been a head coach for 40 plus years and seen this and seen that, we don't have a rule book. We don't have a handbook. This isn't college football. I'm not going to breakfast check these guys. I'm not going to curfew check these guys. We're going to treat you like an adult. And obviously, if something happens, it's a business, and they understand that, and they relish it, and they relish the opportunity. Because again, we do things so quickly, we install so quickly, we keep our menu selections very succinct, and again, it's we want to, we don't need 75 plays on our wristband to be successful. We don't need a big Waffle House laminated menu to decide what we want to call on defensively on third and short from the right hash. Again, we allow.
Right. It's just going to be a blitz on that play. The question is just, he's going to be on the dice, and he's going to be on the sideline rolling dice, and he's just going to say, how many are we sending this time? Because it's Jerry Glanville. We know he's blitzing.
Well,
Coach, it's got to be exciting there watching just everything starting to ramp up in Mobile. What's the energy like, not only inside MLFB, but in the city and the community around it? Is it starting? Are they kind of sensing that something's going on?
Yeah, I think again, Mobile is starting to realize that there's a lot of people with different license plates rolling in right now, and I ended up having lunch with our O-line coach Chris Sinkovich, our offensive play caller Jeff Reinbold, and then our defensive quality control Tristan Alisi. We went to Wenzel's Oyster House today. Tristan's from California originally, but he played his college ball in Idaho. So poor guy hasn't ever experienced Cajun food. So I had to expose him to that, had to take him to that. But again, I think the fact that you have people, and again, Mobile hasn't had a team to call their own, and the fact that now that we actually, again, we toured the stadium today, we took a look at our locker room situation, which was much better than I ever anticipated, having our own even coaching area, so again, we can get a lot of stuff accomplished. We're not going to practice for 3 hours. We're not going to have meetings for 3 hours. Again, this is a short 10-week season, 4 or 5 games. Let these guys play, let them go out there, and again, let's they're good football players. Let's make them better.
Awesome. Well, Coach, anything else you want to say here as we're wrapping up? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say to the people of Mobile about the Airborne and what's in store for them?
Well, definitely. I think the number one thing is we're going to be a very physical team in offense. We're going to impose our will with our offensive line. We definitely, again, dare people to throw on us. We've got the incredible defensive line, which again, just to go back to EJ for a moment, the first time I had a conversation with that young man, I was actually driving, and we spoke for over an hour. And I didn't need to review my notes. I didn't need to look at a computer or anything to be able to speak to him eloquently. I'd listened to him do a previous interview in college. He wrote a book. I mean, there's so many things. But the point is, a guy like him that goes to Adams State, and the reason that I think he became so enamored was he understood that he will be the beneficiary of having such talent inside of him. So again, when you've got guys that have just been in training camp, for instance, up north, and that are now in shape, ready to roll, and you can just send waves of them. And then a guy like EJ's on the outside, and he's just benefiting from the fact that, hey, who are you double teaming? Who are you taking care of? That doesn't even include, our linebackers, which again, both Zach Hall and Roy C are coming back to us. They're both guys that can call the defense on their own if they wanted to, because they've played for us the last seasons in the spring league. And ultimately, again, I think from top to bottom, I'm very happy with this roster. I think it's a good collection of quote unquote veterans. In addition to, we've got over 20 individuals that were true 2022 draft class. That these guys walked across the stage in May, and now they're turning around in July, and they're getting their opportunity. They're getting their chance. And again, like I like to say, this is like junior college, right? This is just one step. Let's help get you to the next one. But more importantly, let's do it collectively as a unit. Let's reap the benefits. Let's have the camaraderie. Let's have fun. Go win games. But most importantly, just really enjoy the competition, because again, it is going to be one heck of a competition. I look forward to it, and thank you so much for having me on, Adam.
Of course. So, Coach Dynamite and the Airborne going to be in action for training camp this week, kicking off the season August 9th in Mobile. Coach, thanks for coming on.
All right, mahalo.
Bye.